Everybody loves a good lightsaber fight, but what really makes a good lightsaber? As in, do only good guys use green and blue lightsabers, and do only Sith use red lightsabers, or Dark Jedi at least? We know from some behind-the-scenes information from the prequel trilogy that George was intending it for the Jedi Order to always use green or blue lightsabers, and for red lightsabers to be the weapons of the Sith or Darksiders, except for Mace Windu, who has a purple one because Samuel L. Jackson gets what Samuel L. Jackson wants. But if we look at the broader Star Wars canon, we know that this isn't always the case. It's not always just blue and green lightsabers for the good guys and red lightsabers for the bad guys. There are plenty of other colors throughout the expanded universe, and plenty of different video games, comics, and other pieces of media have plenty of other lightsaber colors. My personal favorite is yellow, so whenever a game offers the opportunity to make your own lightsaber or choose your own lightsaber color like in Knights of the Old Republic or Fallen Order, then that's what I do. The main question of this video though is whether the Jedi ever did use red lightsabers, and the answer is yes. There's actually several examples of this happening. We're going to look through a few of them and talk about how that became the case. Now, we know at this point that George's intention was that green and blue would be the sign of a Jedi's weapon and red would be the sign of a Sith or Darksider weapon, but this was a bit less clear coming out of the original trilogy. Yes, there was Darth Vader using his red lightsaber, so the implication was there, but there wasn't quite the solidification of this idea that if you were a Sith, you use a red lightsaber. There are plenty of examples, especially in materials from the 90s, like the Bantam books, and some of the comics that were coming out just before the prequel trilogies, or at least before Attack of the Clones, because some did come out after The Phantom Menace that had some of these other lightsaber colors. But it is important to note that aside from some more RPG-like mechanics in certain games like Knights of the Old Republic, and a few mentions of that in some other places, there wasn't quite the same indication that color was so fixed with someone's role within the Jedi Order or someone's affinity with the light or dark side. Some of the early Hasbro figures from the prequel trilogy and the Republic comics indicate this pretty strongly. A lot of the Jedi Council members had their own toys, and many had different lightsaber colors from what we would normally associate with them from Episode 2, where they all tended to have green or blue except for Mace Windu, who did have a purple lightsaber. In Jedi Power Battles, Plo Koon, for example, had a yellow lightsaber, but most interesting for what we're talking about today is Adi Gallia, who had a red lightsaber that was explicitly mentioned as being crimson. This was also the case in Jedi Power Battles and also other comics like the Republic comic series, where you can also see from this cover that Even Peel had a kind of magenta colored one that may also be red depending on how much it's influenced by the structure behind him. If you look at a later scene from one of the comics, there is a picture here of a lot of the members of the Jedi Council, including who I believe to be Even Peel and Adi Gallia, using red lightsabers. Now, this is a period where a lot of things, especially related to the prequel trilogy characters, were still getting sorted out. So even if you go back to the Tales of the Jedi comics or any other comics, there was a lot of variation in the specific lightsaber color used by individual people. But we do see here some consistency in Adi Gallia having a crimson lightsaber. And she's not the only Jedi to have one, even if you discount Even Peel as kind of being just the coloration of the page. If you go to another example from the Republic comics, we have Asherad Het, who is dual-wielding two red lightsabers. He's a Jedi at this point, but funnily enough, he does later go on to become Darth Krayt, a Sith Lord over 100 years after the original trilogy. Now, if you go further back into the publishing timeline, but later on in the chronological timeline, we have other examples of Jedi from Luke's New Jedi Order using red lightsabers. One example, who I think is probably the most prominent, is Leia, whose red lightsaber we first see in the Corellian trilogy, where Luke is sparring with her and she has a ruby red blade. The post-Endor period, because of when it was published, went a lot farther than a lot of other places do with the lightsaber colors available. There's almost as many different lightsaber colors as there are Jedi. Corran Horn has a silver one that can extend, Lobaka has a bronze one, and so on. We do get the reverse of this situation as well, where dark side Force users don't always use red lightsabers. When Jason and Jaina are kidnapped by Brachus and taken to the Shadow Academy, they're given lightsabers to train with by Brachus, who's a former student of Luke's that is trying to train up dark side Force users for the Empire. these lightsabers that they're given are actually blue. Really, what I think this goes to show is that even if there was always a bit of an association between red lightsabers and the dark side, or blue and green lightsabers and the light side, this hasn't always been quite as solidified in the Star Wars universe. This is something that has become a bit more solidified with the new canon, where red lightsabers are essentially made by damaging kyber crystals. But it also was the case that kyber crystals weren't really the only game in town like they are now. In a lot of the early expanded universe works from Legends, there's basically any kind of crystal could be used. Jason used a Karuska gem for his, Jaina made her own crystals for hers, and it was basically anything you had lying around. Lobaka got one out of a display that he was able to use, and this doesn't seem to be the case with how lightsabers work in the new canon, where there's an even stronger relationship between the color and the side of the Force that you're aligned with. But that's a topic for another video. So, hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you did, consider leaving a like or subscribing for more, and if there are any topics you'd like to see me cover on the channel, then let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you next time.